Hello everybody, welcome into another lesson. So today I'm going to talk about what are called power towers. Well, first, let's take a look at a normal equation here, a normal expression where you have 2 to the second power raised to the second power raised to the second power. If you have a base in parentheses raised to a power that's raised to another power that's raised to another power, you just multiply all the powers, right? So what would that end up being? That would end up being 2 to the 2 times 2 times 2, which would end up giving you 2 to the 8th, which let's figure out what 2 to the 8th is. It's 256. So that is a normal raising a power to a power. Now, what is this here? So we have 2 to the 2 to the 2 to the 2. This here is what's called a power tower. It doesn't have any parentheses. This is a power tower when there's no parentheses at all. So you have a power to a power, that power itself is raised to a power, and then that power is raised to another power on top of that. Whenever you have a power tower, when there's no parentheses, you actually start with your outermost powers. So start with that first 2 to the second. What is 2 to the second? That's going to be what? 4, right? So this is going to turn into 2 to the 2 to the 4th. This would turn into 2 to the 2 to the 4th. Well, what is 2 to the 4th? That's 16. So this would turn into 2 to the 16th. Now, what the heck is 2 to the 16th? Let's find that out. It's going to be a really god-awful number, I know it. Nope, I didn't want cosine. That'd be 65,536. So, what this should indicate to you is that raising a power to a power in general is not the same as a power tower. It is not equal to a power tower. They do not equal each other. Because when you raise a power to a power on the left side with the parentheses, you're just multiplying the powers together. When you do a power tower, you start with your outermost power, take the power to the power, and then you'll get that result, raise the other powers to those powers, and then you get quite different results. So let's say, why don't we do this? You have 3 to the 1, 3 to the first, raised to the second power, raised to the third power. So you have 3 to the first power raised to the second, 3 to the first power to the second power to the third power. You have parentheses, so you're just going to do the normal multiplication of powers. That'd be the same as 3 to the 1 times 2 times 3, right? What is 1 times 2 times 3? That would be 3 to the 6th. Well, what the heck is 3 to the 6th power? 3 to the 6th would end up being 729. So that's the normal power to a power. Now let's do this in a power tower. You have 3 to the first. That first power is raised to the second power. That second power is raised to the third power. So we have a power tower. There's no parentheses. Well, start with your outermost powers. What is 2 to the third? That's 8, right? So this would be 3 to the first, that first raised to the 8th power. So what is 1 to the 8th power? Well, 1 to any power is going to be 1, right? So this would just turn into 3 to the first power, which would just give you 3. Big night and day difference there, right? Between doing the normal, taking a power to a power, and then doing a power tower where there's no parentheses. One more example ought to suffice. Let's do it with a variable. Let's say we have x to the 10th raised to the 5th power, and that raised to the 4th power. So we have x to the 10th to the 5th power to the 4th power. So you got the parentheses, you got the normal power to a power to a power. You're just going to multiply all the powers with that base. So you'll have x to the 10th times 5 times 4. Well, what is 10 times 5 times 4? That'd be 200. So this would give you x to the 200th power. Now let's do it as a power tower. So we'll take x to the 10th power. That 10th power is raised to the 5th power. That 5th power is raised to the 4th power. We have a power tower. Well, so you start with your outermost powers for a power tower. What is 5 to the 4th? That's 625. So you'd end up getting x to the 10th raised to the 625th. And I guarantee you, if I try to put in 10 to the 625th power, it's going to do a calculator error. So that's the best we could do for the power tower. It would say value too large in the calculator. So if you have the normal power to a power, you just multiply the powers. But if you have a power tower, you start with your outermost powers, get that result, raise that power below those to the new power that you got, and then you go from there. So that's the difference between power towers and power to a power. And that's going to be the only lesson we do on these. I just thought it'd be really cool to show you how they work. So next lesson we are going to evaluate polynomial functions. We're going to be given certain values. We're going to do direct substitution, and then we're going to talk about synthetic substitution. So I hope everyone has a great night. Take care.